So the first question I'd like to ask you is, what is a strategy? If you can just pause the video for a moment and think what your own answer to that question would be. And then when you're ready, start the video up again and I'll tell you my answer. What you're looking at now is a slide with information about my version of the answer to the question, what is a strategy? There are different answers, but I hope that what I've got makes sense, and it's certainly quite typical of the answers you'd get from most practitioners. So a strategy consists of two things. Number one is a definition of the aim of the organization. And the second is a description of the pathway to achieve that aim. So the aim and the pathway are the two components of a strategy. Now there are lots of different words that get used. So for example, instead of aim, you might use the word goal, objective, ambition, vision, mission. And each of those might mean slightly different things, but in essence they're saying a strategy is about trying to get somewhere else that we're not today. And we want to define where it is we're trying to get to so that we can then make sure we are doing things that will head us in the right direction. The second part of a strategy is the pathway. It's no good having an aim if there's no way you can achieve it. So a strategy also consists of the steps you're going to take along the way to that aim. And again, that can have different words that are used to describe it. So for example, it could be the action plan or the roadmap. Sometimes it's just called the strategy. Now the aim and the pathway capture what a strategy is, and what I've also shown here is something called tactics and operations. So for example, what we'll focus on a lot on my program is business strategy. That is, what's the strategy for an overall business? Now in the context of a business strategy, the IT strategy is a tactical or operational strategy. So IT may have a strategy, HR may have a strategy, operations may have a strategy, sales may have a strategy. But from the perspective of the overall business, I would call that tactics and operations. As you can see from the chart, there may be several of these, IT, sales, HR, so on. They're all linked into the business unit strategy. It's critical that they support the business unit strategy. And in fact, they all are self-reinforcing. They are linked to each other. So that's what the intention is in the way that those ovals are drawn, to show the interlinkages between the different elements of strategy. There's one other thing about strategy that's worth mentioning at this point, and that is that a strategy can be stable over time. You can have a constant aim that doesn't change from year to year, and you can be following a constant pathway. It may evolve a little, but it may fundamentally be the same. So under those circumstances, there are not necessarily a lot of strategy skills required. You're just executing on the current strategy. What people want to learn about is what happens when things change. What happens when you have to have a new aim or a new pathway, or perhaps a combination of both. And at that point, you normally need to make a strategic decision. And a lot of the tools in strategy are helping you make a strategic decision. And strategic decisions are characterized by a certain number of features that you won't find in all decisions. Number one, they're very difficult to make. It's not clear what the answer is. Number two, they often involve a lot of uncertainty and unpredictability, and therefore they require a lot of judgment. And this makes them, again, very difficult to make. They're often made with limited data. And in addition, they have pretty significant and often irreversible consequences. So while they're difficult to make, it's also very important that you get them as right as possible. And that's what characterizes strategic decision-making. It causes you to need to be more reflective, to be really careful you've thought through all the options. And that's quite different from the day-to-day decision making that a lot of operational managers make when, because they're being very experienced in their function, they might have spent 10, 20 years in a particular function. They can make decisions very quickly. They don't need to weigh options. They evaluate the situation and make the decision. And so what you find is that the strategic decision process is rather different from the operational decision process. So that's another way in which I'd like to characterize strategy. It can be seen as a stream of tough and difficult and important decisions. See you on the next video.